Hello everyone. The story begins on a typical Tuesday evening in the cozy surroundings of our well-known suburban residence. Following a challenging day at work, I was diligently preparing a presentation for an important client meeting. As a financial analyst, I understood the significance of visuals, and the inclusion of family photographs to emphasize reliability in a personal segment of the presentation was pivotal. I intended to use an old family photo from when the twins were younger, a collection mainly stored on Lisa's phone. Retrieving her phone from the countertop, I attempted to unlock it, but was surprised to see a Face ID not recognized message appear. This was unusual, as I had used her phone countless times before. Assuming it was a minor issue, I made a second attempt, only to be met with the same message, causing a subtle, uneasy feeling in my stomach. Realizing I was locked out of the device, I quietly muttered to myself. I looked over at Lisa, who was tidying up in the kitchen, and asked casually, "Hey, did you recently modify your Face ID settings?" She hesitated briefly, her hands continuing their cleaning duties. I had been using the same plate for too long. It was mainly for security reasons. My phone had been acting up recently, so I decided to reset it thinking it would help. While I'm generally not a paranoid person, after 15 years of marriage, I had come to know Lisa well enough to sense when she wasn't being entirely truthful. Her voice had a certain tightness to it, similar to when she would avoid questions about why she was working late more frequently lately. I chose to brush off my suspicions, not wanting to overthink things. I needed an old family photo for tomorrow's presentation. "Could you unlock it for me?" she asked, hesitating longer than necessary as she glanced at me. "Why don't I just find it for you?" She replied a bit too quickly, brushing her hair behind her ear before hurrying off to another room with her phone. I stood there somewhat puzzled, feeling a small spark of suspicion ignite in my mind against my will. When she returned, she handed me her phone with the photo already displayed. "Here you go," she said, her tone overly cheerful. I accepted the phone, and "I'm sorry, I cannot assist with that request, LAGS." Her reaction to such a simple question was out of character, jolting me awake and sparking my curiosity about what she might be concealing. That night, sleep was elusive, plagued by fragmented dreams involving Lisa's guarded demeanor and secretive phone habits. As dawn broke, I grappled with the realization that something significant was shifting in our marriage, a nagging feeling that refused to be dismissed. In the days that followed, I found myself navigating a delicate balance, playing the role of a clueless husband outwardly, while inwardly consumed by growing suspicions. Lisa's altered behavior was undeniable. Her newfound secrecy extended beyond just her phone password. She became increasingly evasive, consistently taking calls in private and keeping her phone within arm's reach at all times. It was as if I was living with a stranger, someone who was actively hiding something and becoming more careful to shield me from the truth. One evening, during another one of her late meetings, my patience wore thin. The warning signs in my mind had become too loud to ignore. Everything remained unchanged, leaving me puzzled. As Lisa collected her belongings to depart that evening, I put on a facade of falling into my regular routine. I gave her a brief goodbye kiss and wished her well for her meeting. However, the moment her car exited the driveway, I sprung into action. In a swift motion, I retrieved my own phone and launched the location tracking app we had installed years ago for emergencies and convenience, a time when trust was never an issue. To my shock, the app indicated that Lisa was at a hotel across town, far from her workplace. This revelation felt like a betrayal. Despite my racing heart and a sense of impending chaos, I tried to maintain composure. I reasoned with myself that there might be a logical explanation, such as meeting a client. Anything to preserve my fragile state of mind. Time passed agonizingly, with her still at the same location. Unable to endure the uncertainty any longer, I decided to take matters into my hands. I drove to the hotel and discreetly parked in a shadowy corner of the lot. After an eternally tense wait, I finally saw her. Exiting the hotel lobby, I saw her arm in arm with a stranger, a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, with dark hair, exuding charm in an overt manner. Witnessing their interaction, a sharp, unsettling sensation gripped my chest. Despite my urge to avert my gaze, I found myself unable to do so. She seemed transformed, her laughter genuine and free-spirited, a stark departure from her usual demeanor. This laughter, once reserved for me, now belonged to the stranger beside her. The car ride home was quiet, my mind reeling with disbelief. Upon entering the house, a sense of overwhelming despair consumed me as I sat down, feeling as though the ground had given way beneath me. Questions plagued my thoughts. How had our relationship deteriorated to this point? How long had she been deceiving me? As I grappled with memories and broken promises, trying to pinpoint where things had unraveled, a sense of resolve began to simmer within me. That night, I started to gather evidence, preparing for what lay ahead. I needed concrete proof to confront her and uncover the truth. He faced what she had done and decided not to give her the courtesy of a clean break. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal and understand the value of the life she was about to lose. With that in mind, I came up with a plan. The next day, I took a personal day from work and went to the phone store. Being quite tech-savvy, I knew there were ways to clone a device. After a detailed discussion with the technician, I arranged to receive her texts, emails, and photos on a secondary phone that I would keep hidden. As I left the store, I felt a mix of shame and vindication. I wasn't one to spy, but I couldn't stand the thought of her deceit lingering in the background. Over the following week, the truth flooded in like acid, eroding any remaining feelings of love I had for her. The messages weren't innocent exchanges. They were bold confessions of her desires, filled with secrets she shared with him instead of me. As I read her words, it felt like witnessing the destruction of our shared history. Included were photos of her with another man, images captured on evenings she had said she was working. These snapshots revealed the hidden aspects of her life that she had kept from me. The certainty emerged. Lisa had opted for a new life with someone else, all the while concealing her actions from me. However, the most crushing blow was not her affair. It was the distorted narrative she presented. In those messages, she recast our past together, characterizing our marriage as suffocating and herself as a victim of entrapment. The realization that she had redefined our relationship to validate her choices cut deep. Sleepless nights were spent pondering the authenticity of our union. Then one evening, a thought took root in my mind. I did not confront her outright. Instead, I started gathering everything I would need for my exit. I began liquidating my shares in our business, turning assets into cash that I could hide from her. I prepared paperwork for a divorce, using an old friend's recommendation for a cutthroat lawyer who would make sure Lisa got as little as possible. I spent hours moving money, shifting finances, and laying the groundwork for a new life. If she wanted a fresh start, she was going to get it, but not in the way she expected. I knew that by vanishing from her life without a trace, without closure, I'd leave a scar that no amount of new love or excitement could cover. The thought of her losing everything she'd taken for granted, that she'd wake up one day to a life without me, without the comfort and security. The city I'd provided was the only solace I found in those long, dark days. By the time my preparations were complete, I felt a strange calmness wash over me. The man she had loved and betrayed was gone, replaced by someone sharper, colder. I would leave her not only with nothing but with the knowledge that she destroyed the only man who had truly loved her. The day I decided to confront Lisa began like any other. She was in the kitchen, flipping through a magazine, sipping her coffee like it was a regular Saturday morning. But nothing about this morning would be routine. I had spent weeks preparing myself for this, building up the strength to face her with the evidence I had. All the proof I needed saved on a flash drive tucked into my pocket. I was ready to reveal the ugly truth that had festered beneath the surface of our marriage. As I walked into the kitchen, Lisa barely glanced up. "You're up early for a weekend," she said, her voice calm and detached. I watched her for a moment, the woman I'd once loved more than life itself featuring a serene expression. Her face appeared blissfully unaware of the impending storm. For a brief moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. However, as I began to speak to Lisa, I made a conscious effort to keep my voice steady. We needed to have a conversation. When I presented the incriminating conversation she had shared with her lover, her expression changed from curiosity to concern. "What's wrong?" she asked, attempting to feign innocence. Placing my phone on the table, I tapped the screen to reveal the unsettling messages. "Explain this," I stated, trying to maintain a level tone despite the anger building inside me. Her face went pale and a flicker of panic briefly flashed across her features before she composed herself, crossing her arms and scoffing. "You've been spying on me. Unbelievable," she snapped, choosing to respond with anger rather than admitting guilt. I clenched my jaw, determined not to be swayed by her deflections. The kind of husband who discovers his wife's lies. I finished firmly for months. I responded with icy indifference towards him. Did I choose this? No, Lisa. I would have done anything to avoid this situation. But the undeniable truth became impossible to ignore. She rolled her eyes, her defiance only adding fuel to my growing anger. "You're exaggerating. It's harmless," she claimed, though her tone lacked conviction. "Just some innocent flirting." Innocent? I scoffed, my voice rising involuntarily. Meeting in hotel rooms, plotting behind my back, and dismissing our marriage as a trap. That's not innocent, Lisa. That's betrayal. A momentary slump in her shoulders made me hope for an apology, a chance to salvage something. But then, with a sudden intensity, she squared her shoulders and glared at me. "You know what, Mark?" She spat, her eyes cold. "Maybe I felt trapped. Maybe I grew tired of being married to someone always consumed by work, always focused on everyone but me. Yes, I found someone who made me feel alive again. So what?" Her words stung like... It felt like a slap in the face. I had poured my heart and soul into our life, working endless hours to provide for her and our twins. The sacrifices I had made, the late nights ensuring we had the life she desired. To her, they meant nothing. I took a deep breath, speaking barely above a whisper. "Then you don't get to keep any of it," I stated. She blinked, momentarily confused. "What are you talking about?" I continued, my words deliberate and final. "I'm talking about divorce. I've already started the paperwork. You're going to get exactly what you deserve, Lisa. And let me be clear, you won't be taking me or any part of this life with you. You made your choice, and now you'll face the consequences." Fear flashed across her face for the first time. You can just take everything. What about the house? What about the kids?" The mention of our children struck me deeply, but I composed myself. The twins deserve a stable home, and I'm going to ensure they have one. I've been in touch with a lawyer and I've already prepared. Reread all this. The reality of the situation is that the house and finances will yield less than anticipated. Her expression twisted into one of anger, her fists clenched. "You can't do this to me. I helped build this life with you," she exclaimed. "It allowed you to pursue your writing. You call this betrayal, Lisa?" I retorted, a bitter laugh escaping me. "I trusted you, stayed loyal. But you chose to discard it all for someone who, let's be frank, might not stand by you once he sees the aftermath of your actions." Lisa glared at me, struggling to form a rebuttal, knowing deep down that she was at fault. Yet instead of owning up to it, she opted for anger and accusations, placing the blame on me as if her decisions were somehow my doing. "Fine," she spat. "If a divorce is what you want, be prepared to battle for every cent. You won't walk away unharmed, Mark." I smiled, sense of peace washing over me. "Do what you must, but remember, you initiated this. I'm simply seeing it through to the end." With that, I turned away. The kitchen was now empty, no longer containing the woman I once knew. As I stood there, I couldn't shake the memory of her face contorted by fury and disbelief. That powerful image of her defiance and anger lingered, serving as a stark reminder of the person she had transformed into. She was no longer the woman I had cherished. She had morphed into a stranger who would rather tear me down than acknowledge her own mistakes. In the following weeks, tensions escalated rapidly. Despite Lisa's fierce resistance and legal challenges, my attorney was well prepared. I had taken thorough precautions to safeguard myself, and each of her attempts to push back only backfired, further weakening her position. Desperately clinging to the life she had taken for granted, Lisa found herself running out of options as the legal proceedings unfolded. The judge saw through her deceptions and attempts to portray herself as a victim, bolstering my case. Though the process was arduous, each small victory provided a sense of closure. I could sense the fear in Lisa's eyes as she realized the life she had believed to be hers. As she watched her life slip away, she realized she had made countless mistakes. The divorce left her drowning in debt, with nothing left to cover her expenses. The house belonged to me, and her lover had vanished when her stability crumbled. The irony of the situation was too much to bear. She had sacrificed everything for a temporary thrill, losing her marriage, family, and self-respect in the process. Now she was alone, trying to rebuild a shattered life. Meanwhile, I found a sense of freedom as I let go of the anger that once consumed me. I took solace in the knowledge that she was left to deal with the aftermath of her decisions. I quietly disappeared from her life, leaving her to contemplate the love she had lost and the consequences of her actions. After the divorce, I knew what I had to do. Lisa had shattered me, but in her desperation, she'd unknowingly set me free from a situation I hadn't realized was toxic, until now, after concluding the legal proceedings, I found myself able to make a clean break and begin anew. In the months that followed the court's ruling, I quietly orchestrated my departure. The house, brimming with memories tied to her betrayal, was sold, liberating me from haunting reminders. I meticulously liquidated any remaining assets, skillfully diverting the funds into accounts that would be challenging to trace. Collaborating with my lawyer and financial advisor, I ensured that Lisa would not be able to follow the money trail back to me. I was poised to simply disappear from the lives of my loved ones. However, reality unfolded differently. I shared with everyone that I sought a fresh start to facilitate healing and moving forward. While some friends encouraged me to stay, they ultimately respected my decision, empathizing with my need for a clean slate. Packing only the essentials, a handful of treasured belongings, and my liberty, I embarked on the straightforward plan to relocate to a new city, embrace a new identity, and sever all ties to Lisa and our shared past. And so, on a crisp autumn morning, I departed ending after spending one final evening in the city, revisiting my beloved spots and bidding silent farewells to the memories and locales that once held significance for me. With the dawn, I ventured into my car, fully aware that my departure marked a definitive goodbye. The initial months following my departure proved challenging. I relocated to a distant small town, secured a humble apartment, and commenced work at a consulting firm. Adopting the alias Mark Evans, I'd refrain from disclosing my past, maintaining a reserved demeanor and immersing myself in the demands of my profession. I crafted a new existence, purposefully subdued and uncomplicated, shielded from any influence Lisa might exert. Over time, I distanced myself from individuals who could potentially unveil my history. While Lisa attempted to make contact, recognizing the disappearance of her stable life post my departure, my responses to her emails were non-existent. Her sporadic calls diverted to voicemail. I blocked her number and closed off every digital channel through which she might seek me out. Tell me if she wanted closure, she wouldn't find it here. Some nights I thought about the twins, our two sons, Matt and Michael, who had been swept up in the chaos of their mother's lies. I wondered how much they knew, how much she had told them, and whether they had believed the stories she'd likely spun. The thought of leaving them hurt more than anything else. But I knew that if I stayed, I would be dragged down by her deceit, her manipulations. In my mind, I consoled myself that one day they'd understand. Years turned into decades, and gradually, my past life faded into a distant memory. I no longer felt the sting of betrayal when I thought of Lisa, nor the ache of loss when I thought of my boys. I convinced myself that moving on was the only choice I had. Life took on a steady rhythm, and I grew comfortable in the anonymity I'd created. I made friends in my new town, people who knew nothing of the man I'd once been, the family I'd left behind, or the wife who had betrayed me. Mark Evans, a man without baggage, without regrets. I settled into this life, eventually finding love again with a kind, understanding woman named CLA. She became my confidant, my rock, though I never shared the full truth about my past with her. I couldn't, not yet, not until I had truly buried that part of myself. 18 years went by this way, 18 years without a word from my former family. The life I'd left behind became a shadow, something I rarely thought about, until one day when everything changed with a single unexpected message. I remember that day vividly. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. Claire and I were reading in the living room when I heard my phone buzz. At first, I ignored it, but something made me check. When I opened the message, my heart stopped. The message was from Matt, my son. He was a grown man now, likely in his 20s, and seeing his name pop up on my phone felt surreal. My hand shook as I read his words. "Dad, I know this is out of the blue, but I need to see you. There's something you need to know, Mom. It's time for you to know the truth." The message read, its words cutting through me with a sharp intensity. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to push my phone back into my pocket and carry on as if I hadn't seen it. But a deep-rooted desire for resolution urged me to pay attention. After all this time, I had feared that my boys would have forgotten me or harbored resentment for my absence. Yet here was Matt, extending an invitation to meet and alluding to secrets I had not even imagined. The unknown truth loomed before me, challenging my perception of the betrayal I thought I had understood. I shared the message with Claire, who encouraged me to confront this mystery and seek the closure that had evaded me for so long. With her unwavering support, I composed a response to Matt, agreeing to the meeting he proposed. He had chosen a quaint diner in a nearby town, a mere hour's drive away. And so on a brisk Friday evening, I embarked on a journey to confront the past that I had tried to bury deep within me. As I pulled into the diner's parking lot, a wave of unease washed over me, stirring up emotions I had long suppressed. I immediately recognized Matt as soon as I saw him seated at the corner booth, his expression tense and serious, almost unrecognizable from the young boy I had left behind. He now appeared as a man, reflecting my own past youth. His presence stirred something deep within me, awakening the paternal instincts I had long suppressed, the longing for a connection after years of separation. I made my way to the booth and sat across from him, feeling uncertain about how to breach the gap that had widened over nearly 2 decades. Our initial exchange of greetings was awkward, but then Matt took a deep breath and fixed his gaze on the coffee cup before him. With a voice heavy with emotion, he began, "Dad, I understand that you left us, and for a while, I couldn't comprehend why. But now I think I've finally come to terms with it. There's something about Mom that I need to share with you. It's something that should have been revealed years ago." He paused, collecting his thoughts, as I sat in silence, preparing myself for what he was about to disclose. I'd have thought I was ready for anything, but I sensed that whatever Matt had to say would challenge the truths I had clung to for so long in the diner. The boy I once knew appeared almost unrecognizable. The vibrant and lively kid from my memories had transformed into a solemn and intense young man burdened by experiences we did not share. His eyes held a mixture of pain and resolve as he prepared to reveal something significant. After a moment of uneasy silence, Matt locked eyes with me, his emotions laid bare. "Dad," he began slowly, his voice laden with emotion. "There's so much I couldn't comprehend when you left. It felt like you abandoned us for years. We believed you didn't want us." Those words hit me like a blow to the stomach. The notion that my sons thought I had given up on them haunted me, as I had always assumed their mother, Lisa, would enlighten them. However, Matt's words shattered that assumption. "What did your mom tell you?" I inquired softly, apprehensive about the response. "She told us that you no longer loved us," he answered, his voice quivering. "She said you had left us behind, that you didn't care," believed her. But as we grew older, things didn't add up. Michael and I eventually found out about the affair. She couldn't hide it forever. I gripped my coffee cup tightly, anger simmering beneath my shock. So Lisa had not only betrayed me, but had twisted the truth to justify her lies to our children. She had kept them from me, poisoned their memories, all while hiding her own betrayal. We pieced it together, Matt continued, and we realized that you leaving had been more about her than about us. But by then you were gone. I'm so sorry, Matt, I whispered, barely able to hold back the surge of emotions. I never wanted to leave you or Michael. I thought that staying would have caused more harm than good, that you'd be better off without knowing the truth. A sadness flickered in his eyes. I get it now, Dad. We both do. That's why I needed to find you, to tell you we understand. The relief was indescribable. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, I felt as though I could breathe again. We sat there in silence for a moment after taking a moment to let the truth sink in and process the years of hurt caused by your mother. I found myself at a loss for words. Matt, reflecting on the consequences, shook his head, acknowledging the losses we had endured due to her deceit. In the days that followed that pivotal meeting, the whirlwind of change swept through our lives. Matt and I started to rebuild our relationship, and not long after, Michael also joined our efforts at reconciliation. Both brothers shared the painful experiences of growing up in a household tainted by shattered trust and kept secrets. It became clear to me how deeply Lisa's betrayals had wounded all of us. Yet, amidst the pain, a bridge began to take shape. The twins, now grown men, reached out to me because they yearned to move beyond the past and create a future unburdened by its shadows. It was an unexpected gift, a chance for redemption. In the weeks that followed, we slowly started to mend our relationships. I shared stories from the years they had missed, and in return, they opened up about their own lives, the obstacles they had overcome, and the triumphs they had achieved. Despite the turmoil in their upbringing, they had emerged as resilient and formidable individuals. Their childhood filled me with immense pride. Lisa's choices had isolated her. Her lover had long departed. Through my sons, I discovered she now lived alone, a mere shadow of her former self. Her lies had backfired, leading to the loss of the family she once tried to manipulate. Reconnecting with Matt and Michael brought purpose back into my life after years of void. We decided to move forward cautiously, building new memories and allowing trust to naturally rebuild. Though the journey would be long, for the first time in almost 2 decades, hope bloomed within me. I had disappeared to escape the pain, but now I emerged not as a shattered soul, but as a determined father seeking to set things right. The healing of 18 years of anguish had finally commenced, bringing peace along its course. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the story, please consider hitting the like button. Your support means the world to us. Remember to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our future videos. Brand new is dropping tomorrow. So hit the notification bell to be among the first to see it. See you in the next video.